Where's Johnny? You're gonna need a bigger boat. So simple.
I am Iron Man.
This is a tasty burger.
Welcome to the In Session Film Podcast.
Welcome to Chasing the Gold. This is being recorded on Tuesday, January 27th. The BAFTA nominations came out today, giving us a lot to talk about. I am In Session Film Awards editor Shadan Larkey, joined today by one of my very, very, very favorite Oscar nerds in the world, who I've been trying to get on this podcast for as long as I've been hosting it, Kenny Miles. Welcome, Kenny.
Hey, nice to be here. Nice to see you. I'm glad to be here.
I mean, we have been total dorks. Like 30 minutes we've just been chit-chatting, and I was like, we should actually save some of these movie opinions for the podcast.
Correct.
Well, first of all, Kenny, how are you? How has the season shaped up for you? How's Denver? Has the snow? Have you been defrosting? What's going on where you are?
Yeah, Denver's been interesting. We haven't had a lot of snow. It's been continuous fall. The only exception was actually during the Broncos game, where in the middle of the third quarter, it kind of got whiteout conditions, and then it stopped maybe 10 minutes after that game, which is pretty crazy. But we've only had a few days of it being in this single digits, and it's going to be low to mid 50s for the rest of the week. So don't move here, which it will be interesting because Sundance will happen, this time next year, but we can have mild Januaries. It can happen. So I guess at least we'll still have the mountains, which is good. But it does snow more often in Boulder though than even in Denver. So I guess that'd be a good thing. But
is Sundance going to be in Boulder or Denver? I keep getting confused.
No, it's going to be in Boulder. They'll likely eventually have satellite locations like Salt Lake City did for Sundance, which there was one year I did like 80% in Salt Lake, and I stayed the whole time, and I really liked it. Like it was good. It was cheaper to stay there, and even the tickets were a little cheaper, I believe. And I got in a bunch of stuff, and enough talent came in. It was a good thing to do it. I did spend 2 days in Park City that year though, but it was really cool. But I don't think they'll do satellite immediately. I think they'll eventually do it though, but it'll be in Boulder, and it'll be exciting to see how that turns out.
So my master plan to crash on your couch is not going to be effective then.
No, it shouldn't be. No, if you want to come, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, maybe I'll just come and do virtual Sundance with you on your couch, and I'll be like, I came to the right state, okay? Close enough. Yeah. Because that's what we were talking. We were talking about budgeting for film festivals, and my whole plan was to stay with you. I didn't realize they were in two completely different cities, so now I have to go back to the drawing board.
Yeah, I mean, you could take a bus in the morning and then take a lift at night. That's what I was going to do, for sure. But there's a lot more options to stay, though.
From Denver to Boulder?
Yeah, I'm close enough to downtown where there's a bus that leaves every 15 minutes, and you can get up there really early. But then you can just take a lift whenever you want to leave, It'll still be about a 40-minute drive. What?
Wait, only 40 minutes?
About, yeah. I want to say. Well, I don't know about traffic, though.
Kenny, you would not survive in Texas. 40 minutes is like the distance from my place to my mom's place, and it's like at least go once or twice a week. And I love how you're like, it's so far. I mean, you could pull it off if you want to.
Yeah, that's funny.
Oh my gosh. Well, you're an honorary Texan in my heart, and I think you should come to South by Southwest this year and eat barbecue with me and gossip in person.
I do go to Wichita Falls every holiday season. I have a lot of family that live up there in North Texas. It was like 85 on Christmas this year, past Christmas when I was there. So I do go for that. I have quite a bit of family in Wichita Falls, Texas.
My neighbor, literally Christmas Day, I went outside. I don't even know what to do what. And he was taking his trash out in his boxer briefs. And I was like, this is ridiculous. It should not be this warm on December 25th. It's made me very upset because I was like, I want to listen to my Mariah Carey Christmas music and peace, but I was like, I feel nothing. I feel no cheer. I felt like such a Grinch. I was like, this is bonkers. All right, Kenny. So BAFTA nominations came out today. As I mentioned, this is January 27th. The BAFTAs are going to be on February 22nd. God bless the BAFTAs, by the way, because they're like, we're not going to do what the Oscars did and bring out our nominations 2 months in advance. 3 weeks from now, we're getting the BAFTA ceremony. We got the nominations today. What do you think of what our British counterparts presented us today?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty interesting, what they did. I always think it's fun to really, when they have their own British categories, that's always fun to kind of like look to kind of see what got in there with movies I had seen, but there was quite a bit of overlap, I would say, with what they did, with Hamnet, Marty Supreme, One Battle, Sentimental Value, and Centers in the Best Film category, for sure. It is always interesting to see when they do 6 nominees. It was like, oh, so now we know who was 6th for sure, because SAG is one thing with the 5, but it's more populist and American. But then when you kind of cross it with BAFTA and there's 6, you can kind of see kind of more of overall patterns, I would say.
Yes, which that was my whole framing for this podcast was going to be, how would we have predicted the Oscars differently if the BAFTA nominations came out before the Oscar nominations, which they normally do. This is, I think, the first year that I can remember in a while that the BAFTA nominations are coming out afterwards. And then you tweeted about that today. So I was like, Kenny just needs to come on the podcast instead of me like tweeting at him like I always do. I was like, just come on the podcast. Which, by the way, as I mentioned, Kenny and I have been talking for like 30 minutes before we got on here. And I was like so eloquent about all my points. And then, of course, I start recording and I like get nervous. And I'm like, I feel like I want to impress you, Kenny.
No, you don't have to impress me. Are you kidding me? That's crazy.
No, I'm like, I need Kenny to be charmed by me. Yeah. But okay, so I do want to talk about though. Okay, here's the thing, Kenny, is I would love to sit here and be like, well, of course, if the BAFTA nominations came out before the Oscar nominations, I would have predicted Kate Hudson because she got a BAFTA nomination. But let's just be honest, that would not have happened. I would have been like, oh, Kate's in 6th place and Chase Infinity is in 5th place, and I would have just kept Chase Infinity in there. What changes do you think you would have made if the BAFTA nominations came out prior to January 22nd?
I definitely would have predicted Odessa, for sure, because I wasn't like, I was kind of on the fence about her. Like, I always felt like I'd listened to like a lot of people's predictions, and I always felt like people who like were younger and loved Marty Supreme preferred Odessa, and just enough people who were older kind of preferred Gwyneth Paltrow. So I was wondering if there was potential vote splitting there. I know there's like a big thing with vote splitting, and I'd love someone to explain it to me better, like when it counts and when it doesn't. But I just can't help it but to think of it in that regards. If there's certain types of people who view a movie in a certain way and prefer a certain actor, and they could cancel each other out. But Odessa to me for sure. I definitely kept. I guess Paul Mescal would have made more sense for sure in there, because it was just seemed like the right fit, I would say. And then for I always think it's interesting about lead actor, like obviously there was only 6, but it's like Begonia was kind of right there, even though Wagnamora wasn't. Like, it was almost like Jesse Plemons was just kind of teasing. So he's still there, and that is still, Jesse Plemons is my number 1 favorite performance of last year, and I don't mind that he didn't get an Oscar nomination, which is wild for me to say, just because everyone was so good. Like, I've heard some detractors talk about Michael B. Jordan, but he had so much to do. He played 2 roles, and or like and a 3rd character somewhat, and so he had so much to like do, and so that was a really impressive thing. But just to see Jesse Plemons almost there was just, oh man, and so that one was kind of rough, I thought, for sure.
Yeah, I had Odessa in my predictions, and I thought I was being so clever predicting her so that afterwards I can pat myself on the back and be like, I saw that coming, and I would have kept her in there if she would have gotten BAFTA. I would have been like, yeah, of course she's getting nominated. So that wouldn't have helped. I think, and I wrote a couple of these down, I think it's interesting that like Sentimental Value at the BAFTAs got in for casting, but didn't get in for editing. It got editing at the Oscars. Secret Agent got screenplay at BAFTA, but then got casting at the Oscars. And I think if the BAFTA nominations had come out prior to Oscars, I would have predicted The Secret Agent for screenplay, that 5th screenplay spot over Sorry Baby. I was just stuck on my I was like, Sorry Baby is going to be the lone nominee this year. It's happening. I just refuse to get off that train. I definitely would have predicted The Lost Bus in visual effects, though, because now Lost Bus has gotten BAFTA and Oscar. Like, if I had the BAFTA nominations to go off of, I would have put The Lost Bus in there. And then I probably would have just given up on It Was Just an Accident. If I would have seen BAFTA not nominate It Was Just an Accident for anything other than international, I would have taken it out of picture, I think, for sure.
Yeah, that makes the most sense. I don't mind the visual effects in Lost Bus. Like it like it's what really engaged me with the movie, like to see like just the destruction happening in real time, even more so what was happening on the bus. And I wasn't like, I just like I had so many hot takes this Oscar season because I didn't mind that nomination. I knew Kate Hudson was happening. And that one was more interesting to me because I'm actually surprised she got in at BAFTA, especially when people made it sound like, oh, it's for older Americans and they're just calling up, like they're leveraging their connections, trying to make her sound like an Andrea Riseborough, which I understand why people would think that on a more kind of superficial level. But at the same time, it was like, she is still a veteran. She is well beloved. Yes, she has very famous parents. She lives in Aspen, or her parents do, and she visits a lot. So she had like those connections there. But I do think there were a lot of people who still liked Song Blue. I thought it was okay. Like, I didn't love it. I don't even think I would really defend it. But if I do see something that I think film Twitter isn't obsessed about, that I think will do well, I will call it out as like a demographic blind spot, that like people don't really like that movie. Or like F1 was like a dad movie. Like with this, F1 would have been in a picture with me for sure, because of it was just an accident not making it in. And I think F1 really had that. Not only did it have the blockbuster appeal that maybe an Avatar 3 would have gotten in for that spot, I do think it did have international appeal. Like, I tweeted in November, like I thought it could be a contender, and there were a few people who like were kind of dismissing it a little bit, but it just made sense. It was a global hit. It was technically well made, and it just felt like that it just had enough pieces there for it to do well in the text and squeak in. And then I did read, I'll give him credit. It was Adam Clay he tweeted today. He said it was the first time, F1 was the first time that a movie got into Best Picture that did not have any precursors for, I believe it was director, picture, or writer, which I think is really interesting. So that's how much that movie had to overcome to really get into that Best Picture spot.
Yeah, and no support from any of the acting branch. Obviously, it didn't have any.
That's what it was.
An acting play. Well, Kenny, that brings up an interesting thing of what were some other things, because I feel like one of the criticisms that sort of the Oscar predicting industry gets is that we change our predictions all the time, which makes sense to me, because it's like you kind of have to change your predictions as the season progresses. Like, traditionally, I would have predicted Jeremy Allen White like early on in the season, which last year I didn't launch my predictions that early. This coming year I will. But yeah, if you would have told me, March of last year, I would have said Jeremy Allen White, coming off a successful series, like he's playing an icon, a shoe-in for Best Actor, and then the movie comes out and you go, oh wait, I don't think so. To me, that's, natural. I hung on to the Wicked thing for far too long, which interestingly, Wicked still got in costumes and production design at BAFTA. So that wouldn't have helped us see the complete goose egg that it got at the Oscars coming, because BAFTA still gave it some things. But like, yeah, what were some of those like horses that maybe you hung on to, or just something that you were wrong about? I'll give you the space to just take the L, Kenny.
Take the L. That's a really good question. For one, I'd probably say Adam Sandler and Jay Kelly. There was just something about it that I thought like the Netflix machine was going to pull through him no matter what. It was that he'd given Netflix so much and they were going to return the favor. And I'm sure they did, but it just felt like Oscars were not biting. Another one that I do think of, and I couldn't decide which one it was, but I felt like in international, I felt like either Left-Handed Girl or The President's Cake would have gotten in. Like I just feel like, everyone says that Sony Classics is really good at campaigning, and President's Cake kind of had everything there. I was a little bit in denial about No Other Choice. Like I just kind of had, like, I saw the writing on the wall, but I almost couldn't believe it that wouldn't get like an editing or like a screenplay or something. But I knew, because I'm wondering if the whole WGA thing was an issue for them. So that was something I was made aware of, but I just wasn't too sure. Like in that regard. And like definitely Sorry Baby, that whole week of Julia Roberts, it just felt like perfectly timed publicity. Like someone I work with asked me about Sorry Baby, like who she was watching the Golden Globes. And I was just like, oh, okay. Like that really kind of broke through. So I feel like a non-Oscar voter asked me about that, that's kind of when I got a little excited about that. And I did predict that. It was interesting. I kind of thought, as soon as I saw Testament of Anne Lee, I was like, oh, that's not happening. Like, unfortunately, there was a lot of good to that. It's kind of weird that they compare that to The Brutalist, even though the directors are married. I think they're two different movies, in my opinion. I do like elements of Testament of Anne Lee more than like the detractors, but I'm not like head over heels about it. And then, Nuremberg for sure. I thought, like, listening to like I think maybe it was Matt Naglia's 7-hour podcast, like when they said Nuremberg would get in for something. I definitely agreed, because that screener played really well with my family. And I always try to see like, well, it was that in Song Blue. So it's like, I've tried to figure out like which one, again, that film Twitter is not obsessed over, like which one could get a few nominations. But I do feel like between the BAFTA long list and the Oscar long list, we definitely learned that like, that the long lists are not reliable bellwether indicators for nominations, especially even with Wicked, but even like Surat and then Nuremberg here, and everything, or at BAFTA.
See, I don't know, because I think sometimes when you see like an oddball show up on the long list, it's kind of good to be like, well, if they have enough passion to make it into a crowd of 10 or 15, that probably means something. I mean, like The Secret Agent was a big standout on the casting shortlist. That got in. Kokuo for hair and makeup. Obviously there were some, that didn't go anywhere. Like the Alito Knights also got in the hair and makeup shortlist. But sometimes, like, when you see something that kind of, I don't know, pings you, like, or The Ugly Stepsister is a good example too, of like, maybe there's a certain passion or something. It's indicative of something. Yeah.
I do think a passionate pick has to stand out in Oscars. And I'll give you a really good example. I'm not really into costumes. Like costumes, I have to consult with the experts. But there are a few exceptions. So when Mad Max Fury Road, Black Panther, and Cruella, all of those wins to me really stood out, because it was just so obvious to me. And if you can have an obvious nominee, or even a contender that makes it into the short list, you can figure out a way, like can see like a path for them for like a nomination or a win if they have their own lane. And like one of the examples I do give is when Black Panther wins Best Costumes, you should watch that clip on YouTube, because the 4 other nominees feel like the movies that would have won in the old Academy. And then Black Panther just really sticks out like in a great way. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Like just to like see who else was nominated. I think it was like Mary Poppins and Buster Scruggs. And I can't think who else was nominated. But to me, like if you're that kind of a nominee, you can really do like a lot of, I guess, damage or like win, like perhaps like if you're like more like unique in your category and inspire that passion, at least for like a nomination. I think maybe a win might be different.
I mean, it's like that classic Tom O'Neill thing of like the apple in the bag of oranges, like the one that stands out among the nominees. And I think the actual nominee themselves matters. Like in the case of Black Panther, I think Ruthie Carter is so respected and well beloved. Jenny Bevan for Mad Max, like the craftsmen, whoever they are, men or women, like the name recognition matters. That's why for the longest time I was predicting Nina Gold to win. I mean, I'm glad she got nominated for Hamnet, but I was predicting her to win because she's like the god of the casting industry. Like she's done so many iconic things. But yeah, I mean, I think there was like a lot of, I mentioned like it was just an accident. I hung on to that. And Ann Lee, like when I first saw it, I had it in like 10 different categories, and then I kept narrowing it down, and then eventually even Amanda Seyfried couldn't hang on anymore. Same thing with Wicked for Good. Like I'll take the L on Wicked for Good. Like when I initially saw it, and of course like everyone in my screening loved it and was cheering and crying, I was like, this could have the potential to get more nominations than the first one. Now, I didn't say it was going to get more nominations. I said the potential was there. And it's true because there were 2 songs and a casting category. So you could see a world where it would have gotten, more than that. Obviously, it ended up going the complete opposite direction. And then, yeah, to bring it all the way back to Deliver Me From Nowhere, if you would have told me, Kenny, like a year ago, if we did this podcast and you would have said, yeah, somebody is going to get Oscar nominated for a music biopic, but it's going to be Kate Hudson and Song Sung Blue, I would have, I don't know, like maybe had an or like a stroke on this podcast live. Like that is insane. If you just on paper, insane.
No, yeah, no, it really is, and it's one of those things where you had a beloved actress who gave I think a pretty decent performance, like to very good, but like she definitely, again, she kind of sticks out in those other nominees. Like everyone else is almost like a tortured white woman. I always told that to my family, like that's like best actress usually. But I guess in her own way she is. Never mind. Oh gosh, cut that out. Oh my gosh, sorry. So Kate Hudson does kind of stick out as the veteran actress.
Yeah.
And it is, it's kind of more populist. She has like focus features behind her. So it did make sense, but it's one of those things where you can't know on paper who is going to get in until it actually happens. And that's the thing with Amy Madigan. I think if you wanted to talk about that, who is not on the BAFTA.
Well, all right. And this is where I also need to take the L because I got on Chasing the Gold. See, I'm very like, I will admit when I'm wrong. And I got on multiple episodes of Chasing the Gold and I said, I don't think the Oscar nomination is going to happen for her because she's going to be a lone nominee. And lone nominees are really difficult to pull off, particularly when it is some sort of genre film. And maybe you would disagree, but I don't think you can say Weapons. Yes, it is elevated horror. For those of you that are listening, I'm using quotation marks, but it's not elevated in a Sinner's way. It's not elevated in a Silence of the Lambs way. It's not elevated in a Get Out way. I think the social commentary doesn't come through the same way it does for other films. I will stand by that. I really believe that to be true. Now, I did ultimately predict her because she got in everywhere, but she didn't get in at BAFTA. And I don't think she is win competitive anymore. I think it's come down to Teyana Taylor and Inga Ipswater-Lilius, who did get in at BAFTA. Noelle Fanning at BAFTA. So I would have felt good about not having her in my Oscar predictions, Elle Fanning. I would have felt good about just sticking with Inga for sentimental value. But what is your Amy Madigan take, Kenny? Let me have it.
My Amy Madigan take is I think that I don't know if Oscars are like politics, but like politics, you have to have like a coalition of different people to vote for you. And to me, I always viewed Amy Madigan is that she was the veteran actress. Like she was nominated in the 80s. Like I have a retail side gig job, and the woman who works in the back to manage all the shipments, she loves Amy Madigan. She's like in her like late 50s and was like, oh, she's great. And in this, and my husband loves her and I want to see Weapons. And so like when I noticed her like really passionate about Amy Madigan, I thought that was really interesting. But so she has that appeal among older audiences, but then her performance is kind of for the younger, edgy, it's a really edgy performance. It's kind of for the younger, hip voters. And so to me, I felt like that she had enough from both coalitions to at least get nominated for. I thought that she could for the win, but now I don't. With what we've been seeing. But the idea is that if you can appeal to either different people, I think that could help, other than having like that very passionate fan base. Like her costume, like a lot of people say that Leo DiCaprio, that his outfit was really popular on Halloween. And I went to like the Denver Film Festival dressed as Leo, and there was only like 6 other people like me. And for a cinephile event, I was like, when everyone else was dressing up that night, that's not that many. But I saw so many Amy Madigans on like social media, people who like live like in the Midwest and in the suburbs. And so to me, that really resonated. Like it broke through to then just our like film Twitter bubble. So to me, I do think that was a thing that people do like. But again, I'm kind of with you. I think Inga's probably gonna win BAFTA, right?
I think so. I mean, I don't know. I feel like Sinners, 13 nominations for Sinners, 14 for One Battle. So 8 for Frankenstein and Sentimental Value. So if we're going by the like which one is the stronger movie, then One Battle is much stronger. And you can see a world where if Teyana by then has won SAG, then like maybe there's just too much of a train rolling along. But I mean, I don't know. I feel like BAFTA maybe is going to give Inga the edge.
Is BAFTA before SAG though? Because isn't SAG March 1st? And
but they're voting. I think you might be right, but their voting is going to be closed probably by the time.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I guess maybe it wouldn't matter, but
yeah,
I think it's going to be so interesting at the supporting actress at the Oscars. I think is going to be because if you're looking at maybe Teyana Taylor wins SAG and then Inga wins BAFTA, and then you're at the Oscars and you're like, what's going to happen?
I know it's funny, and I could see there be enough chaos where people are gonna still predict Madigan and like in almost like a Laurie Metcalf is winning for like Lady Bird, that I knew some people were predicting on Oscar night, which was like, God love you people, because I mean it was a great performance. Some of my favorite people champion that performance, but it was just like again kind of like what you said, like what was the thing that you just couldn't let go of? Some people may not let go of Madigan, and I mean it's a great. I loved it. I thought it was such a great performance. It's like a genre, it's outside the box, it's veteran, it's edgy. It was from an original movie. There's just so much there that I really like, but I don't think she's gonna win, unfortunately, which is really, but it is divisive among people, like even like film Twitter people that don't really like it, which I was kind of surprised by. Like anyway, yeah.
I mean, I'm not big on weapons. I've said that all along. I respect the work that she did, but I feel like there are stronger performances and stronger films. But I love the point that you made about building a coalition. I will steal it from now on. And if I remember to credit you, I will. But that's so true, though, that you do have to have a broad swath of support, which as we've seen, Sinners does have. Like I mentioned, 13 nominations at BAFTA. And that was another film. I was one of those people that was worried about whether or not Sinners would have international appeal. The reason why I was worried about that is because I have a lot of international family members who are huge cinephiles, and they just like couldn't connect to Sinners at all. And part of me was worried, like, would that translate? And obviously I was wrong. So glad to see Sinners get the BAFTA love. But Kenny, no Delroy Lindo at BAFTA for Sinners, which means that Delroy Lindo, we can now stop using Andrea Riseborough as the person who gets in without any precursors. We can now say Delroy Lindo because he has gotten in no Critics' Choice, no BAFTA, no Golden Globe, no SAG nomination. So
yeah, and that usually happens once every other year. Like, didn't someone from Roma get in that way?
Yeah, Marina de Tavira.
Yeah,
did as
so
well.
like that can happen. Which is like really weird. That was to me when Delroy Lindo was nominated. There were like 4 or 5 moments I cheered out loud. Like one of them was the train dream cinematography, because I was like, what if it doesn't get in? And I was so ecstatic. The F1 Best Picture was kind of like I called that months ago, like happy, like not like, oh yes, it should be in there, but like a yes. But then when they called his name, it was like didn't know who else was nominated after they said his name. I was so excited. They literally could have said Kenny Miles and something, and I would
You
not
would
have known
You
because
would have been
I was just so enamored that happened because I thought it was so cool. He came to Denver for our film festival, and they had like a big screening of Sinners. So I mean, he campaigned, like he flew to Denver. I mean, not like there's a lot of Oscar voters here, if any, but like if someone flies to regional smaller festivals, no offense to where I live and love, that you are working it. So he was able to work a room. And I'm wondering, this is what I'm wondering, if Miles got in, which was my personal, like Miles talent for Sinners, I voted for him in my critics group, like of a supporting actor. That's who I pick. I thought he was phenomenal. So I feel like if he gets in at SAG and Delroy got in at Oscars, that if different people like different cast members, do you think that shows a sign of strength for that movie, for like to basically win more Oscars than we realize, including Best Picture? I'm just wondering how that works.
Well, to go back to the vote split of it all, so Eric Anderson is one of those people that's like, vote splitting is not a thing. And so then I brought up Ariana Grande because obviously Wicked is just not as strong, but I do think Ariana, or actually I brought this up with Chase, because Ariana, she didn't get in. I think she did split her vote a little bit. I think we saw some people potentially may have voted for Ariana in lead, and some people voted for her in supporting. But in Ariana's case, I don't think she had enough support. Like, it probably wouldn't have mattered anyway, because she probably, like, if Odessa Zion was 6th, maybe Ariana was, I don't know, 8th. But I think with Chase Infinity, I think enough people voted for her potentially in supporting, and then enough, like, I'm saying it was close enough that she could have split her own vote enough for Kate Hudson to leapfrog her. So I think, and Eric, we were talking about this, and he agrees, like, that is vote splitting if you, like, split the vote for yourself. But his argument is vote splitting among co-stars isn't a thing, because if they like the film enough and they like the performance enough, you're going to get in, as evidenced by Elle Fanning and Inga Ipslotter-Lilius and the Benicio del Toro, Sean Penn, both getting in for One Battle. So I don't know if, I think Delroy being the veteran, and like, you know, there was so much sentiment about he was being snubbed for Da 5 Bloods. I mean, he's just 75 years old getting his first Oscar nomination. So I think it makes sense that he was the one that the Academy was going to go for. But I mean, we can get to Best Picture a little bit later on, but I brought this up in the nominations reaction podcast as well. I don't think, and on the main show that I did with JD, but I don't think it's over between Sinners and One Battle. I think, speaking of building a coalition, Kenny, like, in order to win Best Picture, you need to build a coalition. I mean, it's incredibly rare. Like, Coda did it. They won Best Picture with one acting win, one screenplay win, and that's it, and they won picture. But normally you do need crafts wins, and Sinners picked up craft nominations all over the place. So, like, every single branch of the Academy basically has shown support for that film. Yes, One Battle also did incredibly well, but, and again, to go back to your coalition point, I mean, you can be somebody who loves populist action films and really like Sinners, or you can be a cinephile and really appreciate the, like, artistic approach that Ryan Coogler took. I mean, if you're a more socially conscious voter, there's like that. It's like, it has something for everyone. If you just like musicals, that has that aspect of, like, the musicality of it all. I think there is more broad appeal to something like Sinners than there is One Battle. Like, I'm okay standing by that. I feel like that's a correct sentiment.
Yeah, and what makes sense for Sinners too is there was this kind of pushback from more not Oscar nerds and some people on social media, and even in film. I did see it in a Facebook movie group I'm part of, saying that the movie Sinners got too many Oscar nominations, and it just felt like Rotten Tomatoes syndrome to me, where, like, you need to say what category you were not nominated for and what you would put in its place. Because to me, I look through the categories, and Sinners would not be my number 5 really in anything that it's nominated for. Like as soon as people said that, I saw it all the time, I like literally went through and I'm like, oh no, because Sinners was my number 2 movie of the year after One Battle. And so I looked through category by category was nominated. And I'm like, no, I would probably take out, like, I don't know, maybe like Avatar and Costume, which was a kind of a cool nomination, but like I mean, but I don't know anything about costumes. So like, but like, I just don't like that. And why I brought up Rotten Tomatoes, it's the idea of like when I pull for Cinema Score, which is the exit survey company, like people will say like, oh, the critics were wrong, or like the Rotten Tomatoes score was too low for the critics, but I will give it a C grade, which would then be, if you were a critic or user on Rotten Tomatoes, that would make the grade rotten. So it's like this idea of like in theory, in like in the collective, you think it's too much, but if you do your part and like look closer, to me, it's like, no, it adds up to me. Like it did deserve all of those nominations. Like I literally went through and would have taken someone else out from like a different movie, I think.
I mean, I'll be honest. I think if I had to pick what nominations, I wouldn't say I think it deserved all the nominations that it got. The weakest of the nominations for me would probably be production design. I think Hannah Beachler is brilliant, but I think, something like Hedda or even The Testament of Anne Lee, I would replace. And then I think the VFX in Sinners isn't the strongest. Like I probably would have nominated, Frankenstein or something instead. But even by my own logic, that would still give Sinners 14 Oscar nominations, tying the all-time record. So like it's still like a brilliant, brilliant movie. And as JD brought this up on the main show, like, La La Land got 14 nominations with 2 sound categories and multiple songs getting nominated. Sinners broke the record with 1 sound category and 1 song. And so even the addition of casting like wouldn't have made a difference, because even if you got rid of the casting category, it still would have gotten 15 nominations and broke the record anyway. So any way you splice it, Sinners is a massive juggernaut, and to try to diminish that acknowledgement or achievement, I'm not a fan of that at all.
No, I'm not either. And not only that, speaking of acknowledgments that people don't realize, I had a tweet like about a year last year, and I'll have to really dig in the weeds for this, but Ryan Coogler is the only director that I know as a Cinema Score pollster. Every single movie he has made has gotten an A or A plus. And that is not, and he's done 6 features, I think. And that's such a big deal, because even if you were like a Spielberg or Shyamalan or something, you still get a movie that's like a B plus or B, like Inception got a B plus. And so to me, it's like, I described him as like a Valley Victorian, report cards, he's just perfect top of the class. And it's just like, he has to do so much to get recognized. And I do feel like, when Nolan is sitting there doing the Q&A, it's like, oh, he knows this talent. Like, you know what I mean? So that's kind of why I'm wondering if the whole Sinners thing could really happen. If it's, I don't know if it's either going to be, this is the thing that I think it's going to be 2 things. Either the Oscar season in this phase is too long that we need to come up with something to talk about, or if there's enough time for there to be a groundswell for Sinners. And right now, to be honest with you, I can't tell which one is happening. I'm just going to be completely honest with you. You know what I mean?
I mean, I said this on the main show. I think it's both. I think, maybe the simplest explanation is like, it's PTA's year, nothing's going to stop him. But the love for Sinners is there. 16 nominations is not a joke. Like, that has to mean something. Again, maybe I'm wrong, but that has to mean something. And to your point, when you have Christopher Nolan out there, maybe picture and director is going to split. Maybe Coogler does take director and PTA, wins screenplay and picture. Maybe Sinners takes picture and Coogler and PTA still gets his director trophy. I don't know. But I don't think it's crazy to be talking about this. And that is one thing, Kenny, one of the things about the Oscar prognostication world that just drives me a little bit crazy is when people get too cocky and try to be like, I've seen people be like, oh, it's been one battle all along until September. Ever since September. Maybe that is true, but why can't we have fun what if conversations? Because I think SAG is very much in play for Sinners, and having Delroy get in with no precursors, that has to be a massive sign of support for that film. And I think the fact that SAG was we still want a supporting actor in there, that's not nothing. Like, do I think Miles Catton's gonna win? No. I think people who are predicting Delroy, that might be a little bit too much for me to predict Delroy Lindo, but that sign, that support, it's got to mean something. So yeah, it's January 27th. Maybe Sinners doesn't win Best Picture, but maybe it overperforms in text. You know, maybe I think Song is probably going to be close. I think Golden is still going to win, but I think I Lied to You is right there. One more thing about the Kate Hudson of it all. She's been posting, like, for her Oscar nomination, she posted a really sweet video and like a picture of her and her mom. And then she posted a really sweet thing for her BAFTA nomination. And the amount of celebrities in her comments, like, just being like, we're so happy for you. We've been rooting for you. Like, Anthony Hopkins wrote her a really sweet comment under her BAFTA post. And I was like, if Anthony Hopkins is in your corner, like, I'm not saying she's going to win. I'm just saying I should have seen the nomination coming because I didn't realize how beloved she was. So to your point, I think there's just always, like, we put our blinders on, and my blinder was you have to be in the film that's going to be the best picture juggernaut. So I was like, it's going to be Chase. And I was wrong, and that's okay. And then, Kenny, I'm glad you brought up the costume design nomination at the Oscars for Avatar: Fire and Ash. Because one thing I stupidly did not realize until today, because I looked up Deborah L. Scott, and she won an Oscar. Her only other Oscar nomination that she won for was Titanic. So I am telling you guys here and now, I'm done with the Oscar nomination slander for her for Avatar, because she is the icon that gave us all those iconic dresses on Kate Winslet, the like red beaded gown that she wears. Which, like, if I had one movie costume that I could wear, it would be that one. You know what I'm talking about? The dress, the Titanic dress that Kate Winslet wears.
Oh, you mean when she meets Leo and it's like in that ballroom?
Yeah.
Like it's
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I will not take any more Deborah Scott slander. It's not happening. Good for her for coming back to the Oscars. I want to make that very clear that I am now officially really cheering for her, because that was one of the big head scratchers of Oscar nomination morning for me. But now that I like looked into how incredible her resume is, and I just didn't connect the two, and I think it's cool that she's been working with James Cameron this whole time. So good on her.
Yeah, to me, I never thought F1 or Kate Hudson's were head scratchers. If anything, I'm scratching my head at like the backlash to that. It's just so weird. Like there are people who like do this professionally, who get paid, it's their job, and they were shocked that F1 got in, and I was like, I'm not that surprised, and that they were, like not, I don't know, putting together that, like I said, it was a tech player, had international appeal. I think there was enough there. It did have to overcome that Beauty and the Beast stat, which I thought was really interesting. But yeah, it is for me. But that Avatar costumes is definitely out there in my opinion, just because I didn't know. I mean, it kind of stands out on its own. I guess maybe Sinners might. I don't know. Like I'd probably vote for Sinners, because Ruthie Carter is probably like our modern like Edith Head right now. Did you know Ruthie Carter did the costumes for the first season of Yellowstone?
I did not know that. That's
so
really
she's
cool.
She's very talented to just go across just all kinds of movies and TV shows. So I think that like that's kind of why I want her to win again, like to win something else besides a Black Panther movie, because it shows that she can, like, her talents are great, but I think it would be really cool if it's just beyond like that terrific franchise. But it would be really cool to see her do other stuff, which I know that she's definitely like a worthy winner there. But yeah, that's the only one. I'd say that in Avatar. Remember when I said about costumes and how nothing really stands out for me? I would say in this, just kind of thinking about this, Sinners is the one that stands out. Maybe a little bit of Marty Supreme, and then Mia Goth and Frankenstein kind of bothered me. So it's just like when I see the Frankenstein costume, like, oh yeah, that, okay, no, sorry, Kate.
That is so funny, because I think Frankenstein is gonna win best costume.
Oh, you do? Oh, I think it's
I do.
Oh, you're right. That is, because isn't costume design and production designer are together, right?
They're very tied. I mean, it doesn't always have a match, but like most of the time, the person who, the film that wins costumes wins production. But I just want to be very clear. I think Ruthie Carter is a goddess, and if she wins a third, like I would not be mad. I would be very happy about that. But I mean, that is a place where Sinners, I think, could surprise. I mean, I'm predicting it to win casting. I think screenplay. People are trying to say screenplay is going to be competitive. I don't think so. Like, I think it's Ryan Coogler. Like, is pretty safe there. I think score is safe.
Oh yeah, score. I feel like if there's just one, if it literally wins one, I think that's most likely to win probably.
And a lot of people are saying that F1 could win like the editing sound combination. And I do see potential for that, but I think Sinners might be the front runner in sound. I really do. I think giving Sinners like sound and score makes sense. Like the sound work in Sinners is so incredible. And that sequence that everyone is talking about, like without the sound, it just wouldn't work. So I don't know. I have it as my number one in sound right now.
Yeah. I always think of, I don't know, like the Loud movie in sound. So I would just default to F1. I guess doesn't. What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say the hard thing is.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say the hard thing is the sound branch loves two things. They like loud movies and they like musicals, and we have both of those. So.
That's true. We'll find out. They used to love war movies for a while. It is wild that Warfare is not in sound. Like that, it didn't even make the short list. That's crazy.
And good on BAFTA for nominating Warfare for sound. I mean, there are some really inspired nominations in here. Warfare for sound is really good. I liked seeing House of Dynamite get in for editing. I really feel like that's such a deserved nomination for Kirk Baxter is really cool. Carey Mulligan, let's talk about the supporting actress lineup because this is super interesting to me. Carey Mulligan for The Ballad of Wallace Island, which if you haven't seen it, it's streaming now on Peacock. It's a really, really lovely movie. I think I don't know, it reminded me of like being a Swiftie or just like really, really loving a band or something and like that passion that you carry through with you. I just thought it was such a sweet film. So a really cool nomination for Carey Mulligan there. And then we also have Emily Watson getting in for Hamnet. What did you think of that?
I thought that was interesting to say the least. She definitely isn't in it a lot. I know the supporting, I think maybe we've been desensitized to like co-leads being in supporting performances, but there's always that fine line between a few scenes and half the movie. But I thought that was that was definitely inspired. To me, if you do nominate Emily Watson, like you really like Hamnet, or maybe you just needed to put someone there. I don't know. I can't decide because I don't know if Hamnet, I didn't double check how Hamnet did here, if it considered underperformed or overperformed or just performed. But I guess there are 6 nominations. But I was really happy to see that because she does have some really good scenes. And there were some people who were not predicting Emily Watson to win, but to be like, what was it, like the Judi Dench of Belfast sort of thing. Like people would bring that up in their podcast, but not predict it. So I guess in hindsight, it makes sense it's here. I did like Ballad of Wallace Island. I watched it in like early March before, I think it even played like at South by. I was after like Sundance, and I went to advanced screening. It was kind of as the world and the new administration got really chaotic and crazy, and it was just a really good movie to just really kind of escape. Like you can go to the island itself, and just the music was so nice, and I was just really really enthralled in the movie. Like, and it didn't even make my top 20 list, but it was such a good movie, like that I just really enjoyed and sat with. So I was really happy that it did well there, as well as I guess an outstanding British film, and then like adapted screenplay as well. It did get those like 3 nominations, it looks like, but I was happy to see that in there.
Yeah, I also haven't seen I Swear, which did really well at the BAFTAs. Peter Mullen, nominations for Best British. I'm definitely going to seek that out because I feel like I have very British sensibilities, so I feel like I would enjoy it, just not even knowing what it's about. But to answer your question, so Hamnet at the Oscars, I want to say got 8 or 9 nominations and then got 11 at BAFTA. So did well at BAFTA because it got in Emily Watson and Paul Mescal, where it missed those two at the Oscars. And then Sentimental Value also did better at BAFTA because it got 6 nominations at the Oscars and 8 at BAFTA. So clearly BAFTA, so I can see the argument that like Inga could win BAFTA and then that could be enough for her to take the Oscar in the end. Because they really love now. No Wagner Mora in Best Actor, which is interesting because I feel like people are trying to argue that he's win competitive, and I'm like, I don't see that happening. Yes, Secret Agent. It's interesting, like I said, because Secret Agent got screenplay at BAFTA, but they didn't nominate Wagner with 6 slots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is maybe for actor. Again, it was really. Actor here was just really competitive. I felt like, I mean, I didn't see, I swear I'd heard about it because it was on Sony Classics website. I knew that they had acquired it, and any movie they get, I immediately make it like a priority. That they're like the original A24 as like an elder millennial. No, like they really are. So like I knew that they acquired it from last year's TIFF. So I had heard of it, but like if you look at lead actor, like this is just so crazy. Like it makes sense. Like, oh, I Swear got in, and then like these really, I guess the 4 Oscar nominees, and then Begonia. So I guess it is weird that I guess Wagner Moura isn't there, you know, because if people were thinking like that Jesse Plemons got in here, like if that meant that he would get in for the Oscar, you know, because I mean, it just shows you that that Begonia was really, you know, like loved across the board for sure. But I'm trying to see where else. Secret Agent.
Jesse was probably like a really strong number 6. Jesse was a strong number 6. Chase was a strong number 6. I mean, Paul Mescal was probably like a very strong number 6 for Hamnet. And then Odessa was probably number 6 in supporting. Mm-hmm. And like those vote totals were probably really, really close.
Oh yeah.
It's also interesting because BAFTA only does 5 nominees for picture, and the 5 nominees are Hamnet, Marty Supreme, One Battle, Sentimental Value, and Sinners. And I think if we had 5 Best Picture nominees, that would probably be the 5. Like these are, no offense to the other 5 Best Picture nominees, but these are have sort of pulled away from the pack, if you will.
Yeah, it did make sense. I remember people were saying if there were 5 nominees, if Sentimental Value would get in, and I thought that before today, and now I'm definitely more convinced that this would be our 5. Well, wait, so I guess Marty Supreme would as well because it got a director nomination, right? Because didn't people think Marty Supreme kind of underperformed at the Oscars, like slightly?
It underperformed because it didn't get in score. Okay. And it didn't get, an additional nomination for Odessa.
Okay, that's right.
But BAFTA and the Oscars are 5 for 5. So
yeah, no, I guess that is really good. And then in Outstanding British Film, it's right here. 28 Days Later, I finally saw that just before I went to go see Bone Temple, which I didn't. I admired what it did, and I really liked the third act a lot. And then I felt that even more for the second one, Bone Temple. Anyway, so sorry. It was it was kind of cool to see that here. I didn't see Bridget Jones. Yeah, Die My Love. Man, Jennifer Lawrence is so good in that movie for sure.
Phenomenal.
And then I did see H is for Hawk at Telluride. And I did do I did do something involving like kind of with that audience. Like I was able to kind of not really pull them, but to kind of like write a report for the studio. I don't know if I should say this about Ages for Hawk, but I felt like the audience, that they actually really liked it. Like they didn't. And that's the other problem when you have a movie at like a fall festival, is that it can get lost when like you're in the midst of like, these really great movies. But like Ages for Hawk to me, I think could have done better as like a March or April release, almost like what Ballad of Wallace Island did last year, because the audience really enjoyed it, but like not enough for it to be like an awards contender. in my mind, and I still haven't seen Pillion. I know Pillion is the only movie in the first feature DGA award that I've not seen yet, and that's my favorite award. I think it's the closest to the guilds having a best new artist award, almost like at the Grammys. And so I love that category, and Pillion is the only one I've not seen yet. So I am looking forward to that one. And I believe Steve's on Netflix. I just keep forgetting about that Steve movie.
Well, it's interesting. First of all, you would really like Pillion. I need you to text/DM me as soon as you see it so we can discuss it, because you would really like
really?
it. And I'm glad to see it did well at BAFTA. I think it got, screenplay in addition to best British film, which is really cool. H is for Hawk. I did not even know, as you can tell, for those of you that are watching, this is not even my entire book collection behind me. I kind of have a book problem. But the fact that I didn't even know that movie was coming out, given how beloved and popular that book is kind of crazy. Like, I feel like they sort of dropped that film. And I agree with you. If it wasn't going to be an awards thing, it would have done better in the spring, like closer to Mother's Day, maybe. I don't know. It's a very strange rollout for that film. Like, because you could see a world where Claire Foy is sort of a bigger part of the conversation, at least in critics groups or something. Very surprised.
And that's the thing, because really for like the fall festival trifecta, if you don't have distribution, you need it, and you need to be running out the gate for that, because that's what happened with Ann Lee. I mean, like, it's really weird to compare it to H's for Hawk, but like in a certain way, it's like you have to but you have to get distribution immediately. You have to be the ones that everyone's talking about constantly. People bring it up. And you really can't hold on to things anymore and just be like, oh yeah, we exist. We had a 1 week qualifying run. Look at us. We're trying, which is where, I mean, Ann Lee did more than that, but like, it's just like, you've got to really, isn't like Still Alice, like the last one that like, it didn't have distribution, and then it got distribution, and then Sony Classics worked their magic. But that was even like what, 10 years ago? Like, it's just a different, even the 2020s film festival wise is different market and atmosphere film wise than even 2018 or 19 were, like, in my opinion.
That's such a good point. I think campaigning matters a lot more than it did before. And just building momentum. Like I said this on the main show, like, these early releases are hanging on now way more than they did before. So I think, we used to not take the spring seriously in terms of awards, like if a movie came out in the spring, but yeah, I think now, like, these spring titles can be more of a contender. I want to talk about, Kenny, the documentary category.
Yes, I wanted to as well, because I literally ask people, like, because I do online Sundance, I do like a Telluride, like I ran to see Cover Up, and it was just just crazy to like.
There were two categories that I did really poorly
so.
in general. There were two categories. One was documentary, I got 2 out of the 5, and one was animated short, which I also got 2 out of the 5. I did better predicting documentary short than documentary feature, which will always be hysterical to me. And if they would have gone with this 5 lineup, I would have done much better. I would have gotten 4 out of 5. So they did 2,000 meters to Andrivka, Apocalypse in the Tropics, Cover Up, Mr. Nobody Against Putin, and The Perfect Neighbor. So only a 2 out of 5 matchup there with the Oscars. What do you make of this category? Because I think it's fascinating.
It is too. I mean, you definitely see what's preferred in Britain. I would not have predicted Cutting Through Rocks if I saw this, because I thought that would have to show up here in BAFTA in my mind. Like, you can make the case for like maybe the American contingency really liked Come See Me in the Good Light or Alabama Solution. But to me, it just, like, you don't really see it here. And then I think Putin being here would have made that a obvious contender. I love Apocalypse in the Tropics. It was my number 1 documentary of last year. I did not predict it ultimately, because I just felt like it had like no heat, like no one was talking about it, even though I loved it. And so I ended up being correct there. But seeing it at BAFTA, it's one of those things. It's like, well, what would you have done? Like, I was leaning toward that way, but the BAFTA really piqued my interest. Like, oh, that's interesting. It's here because I feel like Apocalypse maybe would have gotten in the slot that Cutting Through Rocks did, and I would not have predicted that. So to me, I don't know. In hindsight, it all depends, but it just felt like that the documentaries this year were less international than they have been at the past, which was interesting. I think Perfect Neighbors probably is that one in the Oscar. Would you say?
I think so. I think Geeta Gandhar is like really well respected. People really like her, and that has been a movie that's been around for so long. It's like easily accessible on Netflix for everybody. So I
It did very well.
Yeah.
Wait, isn't Geeta's nominated for like the short doc, right?
Yeah, and I think she's also nominated for The Devil Is Busy.
Yeah. It's the short doc. So if you're nominated like twice, you'll probably get in. You know what I mean? Like you've got to win one of those, right?
I mean, that's what I'm predicting. I hope I'm right. I did fall for they're not going to vote for the Alabama solution because it's too American, or they're not going to vote for Come See Me in the Good Light because it's, we know who Andrea is in America. She's much beloved, but I didn't think, like, with how international docs are going recently, I didn't think, especially like both of those happening is wild. And I wasn't predicting Cover Up, but like people were predicting all three of those. And I have said before, I didn't like Cover Up very much, but I would have predicted Cover Up over the Alabama solution. That seemed like
interesting. Yeah,
the stronger of the two.
I really liked Cover Up, but someone, I did say that if My Mom Jane did not get nominated, that they're never going to go for like a bio doc type of thing. But now that not even Cover Up did, I don't think they ever will. It was like a double death nail to me. Like I thought, like if My Mom Jane doesn't get in, like last summer when I watched it, I was like, oh, they're never going to go for it. And now it's like obvious that they're just not going to go for that.
But that's interesting though, because I see Cover Up as more of like a journalism documentary. And like Armed with a Camera got nominated for documentary short. So like journalism stuff, I feel like tends to do well. No, like I don't know if I'm but no, the celebrity doc thing, like I think that's done. I mean, they didn't nominate the Mr. Rogers one, they didn't nominate the Superman one, they didn't nominate Jane, the Jane Goodall documentary. Like if you're, not for Michael J. Fox, which I was predicting because I was like, he's so beloved and they had gone everywhere with that documentary. So yeah, now if you're a celebrity with a documentary, I'm sorry, just go to the Emmys. Like the Emmys will still anoint you and they still love you, but like the Oscars, it's finished, it's done. They're not gonna do that anymore.
Yeah, that is interesting because biodocs seem to be almost like, I don't want to say like less than, but like the Emmys in a certain way, or like, not theatrical. So it's interesting that you do bring that up because that could really be a thing now that we see like that. Like I loved it. I just saw the Mel Brooks. It was like a 2-part doc. It was fantastic. I loved it. I ate up every moment of it as it was like cold and snowing outside, and watched over 2 nights this past weekend. But it's like, you're right. Like that's something that they maybe would have gone for in the past, but maybe is not a thing anymore. And then there was even a documentary that Sony Classics released a few years ago. It was the about a publisher. I can't think of the name of it, but it just felt like a movie that they would like really kind of just go for. Oh, it was called Turn Every Page: The Adventures of Robert Caro and Robert Gottlieb. It was really good. It was really just felt like something that they would really kind of go for. And his daughter directed it. And but I feel like that would have been nominated and won like in the 90s. And so like that to me was when I first noticed like, oh, they're going in like a different direction now. Because if Sony Classics couldn't get that doc in, and it was a fantastic doc, then it's just not gonna like happen. But that was the first warning sign. Like I always remember when that happened.
I wrote down Turn Every Page because that seems like exactly the kind of thing that I would like. In a similar vein, two other documentaries that I would just recommend. One is Deaf President Now, which did do very well at the Emmys,
Yeah.
wasn't shortlisted for the Oscar at all. Another sort of, I guess, celebrity adjacent, just not even celebrity, I don't know, celebrity backed documentary, if you will.
Oh
celebrity
yeah, that makes more
produced
sense.
documentary.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then just in terms of like writerly documentaries that I like, Rebecca Miller directed a documentary with about her dad, Arthur Miller, where she like interviewed him and stuff before he passed. It's a good documentary. If you're like a play nerd, I am. I love Arthur Miller plays, so that's a good one.
I literally know that documentary because I'm a Telluride Film Festival completist. I open up the guide toward the beginning of every year and like look at things I've missed, and that premiered at HBO like the following spring, and that's where I saw it, and it was really good. Like, right.
Kenny, is there anything else in terms of the BAFTA nominations that stands out to you? I mean, there's a lot of overlap here. A lot of these categories did go 5 for 5. I mean, score, a lot of them are just 4 for 5, you know. Original screenplay, for example, I Swear gets in.
Yeah, I can't wait to see I Swear. I'm looking forward to that one. I'm just scanning right now. Yeah, I Swear is really in here.
Yeah, there's a lot of, and like I mentioned, like sound, I love that Warfare, got that 5th slot. There's a lot of these where I'm like, I wish this was our lineup.
Yeah, when I said I was a little worried about Train Dreams getting an Oscar nomination, if I would have seen this list, I wouldn't have been really worried at all. I don't know why I was worried because that what is that, the Cinematographer Guild, like they're rarely 5 for 5, so I just felt like maybe Train Dreams was too much of a small movie for them. I'm scanning right now again, still just double checking. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, interesting that Ethan Hawke got in everywhere. Renata Reinsva got in everywhere. Rose Byrne got in everywhere as a sole nominee, which is really cool. Again, because Amy Madigan, she did miss BAFTA, but the fact that Rose Byrne hit everywhere all by herself.
We need to root for like those sole nominees, especially when I guess people compared like the Oscars becoming like the Emmys with like how the White Lotus got nominated for everything if something goes down the board. I do think if you're a tech player though, it's kind of undeniable versus like, like we're going to give best sound to like, some like sentimental value. Well, I mean, that was probably like an extreme example. I didn't want to say one battle after another because I knew it was nominated and the sound in it was pretty good. But like Sarad getting into sound is really cool. Like I always like those one nominees like that do get in. I guess Smashing Machine kind of got in for makeup. Oh yeah, The Ugly Stepsister. You did mention that, and I do think it's cool when something like they have passion for it, and then it can just kind of get in. I was ready for Kokohu. Like it had played in Denver for like an IMAX special one night only, like the night before the Oscar nominees, and I almost went because I'm like, what if it gets an international, nomination? But now I can wait. I'll probably see it in theaters because February can be a pretty slow month for movies.
Yeah, Kokohu I was predicting, just because I was like, they usually have one kind of off makeup nominee, but I wasn't predicting Kokohu and The Ugly Stepsister. Like that nominee, I was like, cool. I do want to talk about Best Actor really quick. Do you think Timothée Chalamet, does he just have this locked down, or can we potentially see a Leo or Michael B. Jordan surprise here?
I still want to see. It's the thing is though, the actor, like the lead actor, if you're in Best Picture, you win. That's what we've noticed. Because I think I prefer Leo. I just think the performance.
I do too.
I just the performance encompasses a lot of what he's done, and not really like a carbon copy of his last performances. But it just there's just so much happening there. I could see Chalamet winning though. I mean, it can be a thing. It's just like the pivot from selling the movie to Oscar campaigning was really jarring to see that in speeches, because I never considered Marty Supreme was always box office first to me. Like, because if it would have bombed, like it would, like I don't think it would have gotten this many nominations. Like you can probably like cut it in half, in my opinion. So to me, it wasn't like he did it with a complete unknown. Like when he went on ESPN last year, he does really good. He's really savvy at promotions, but it's interesting. Like I definitely want to see him like, get more serious. Like I'd love to see him on CBS Sunday Morning, which is my favorite program. And I always joke every Sunday, like that any actor who's like in the conversation, like, oh, they're running, like it's them like campaigning. Like you can totally tell, like Tracy Smith or Ben Mankiewicz like walk down like a sidewalk or like yard with them as they're talking. And it's this really good setup. And even like the year before, they literally had Tracy Smith, they got on like a ferry and they drove past the Statue of they rode past the Statue of Liberty as they were talking about the Brutalist, and it was just this pageantry of Oscar publicity that like is one of the best in years. Like it was incredible because it was like in like mid-January when the Oscars were getting underway, and it was just so perfectly timed, and it showed so much, and it was great. And so that to me is the kind of campaign I kind of want to see from Timothy, is like be like on those kind of talk shows and talking about his career and stuff, like on that program specifically. But Michael B. Jordan did go on that program like late December, early January. And I'm like, oh, that's a serious thing for sure.
Oh my God. Kenny, CBS Sunday being your favorite show and you knowing who has gone on there for like a campaign stop is so funny and endearing. That is incredible.
Thanks. Yeah. No, Ethan Hawke did in early December. Wagner Moura needs to go. Actually, if there's one person who I think should go on, it's definitely Amy Madigan, because it's perfect, because older people. She was in like someone who's older, like it's in the 80s, like her movies were in the 80s, like it's totally perfect for her to be on there. Like if there was one person I could pick to see a profile on that hasn't been on, it was that. Yeah, Jessie Buckley did early November. I remember I flew back from Denver for my cousin's wedding, and I had like a 7 a.m. flight, and I watched her interview on the plane and like overlooked like the sky, and it was amazing. I like loved that moment. So I do remember that for sure. I think Rose Byrne was on. I don't remember.
Y'all, you heard it here first on Chasing the Gold. If you want to be a serious Oscar nominee and win competitive, you have to go on the CBS Sunday Morning News Show. I
had a studio publicist. I'm not gonna say who. I promise. It was at Telluride, and I asked him. He goes, "Yes, that is a campaign stop." Like I said it'd be off the record, so I'm not gonna say who it was. But like I was just like I knew it. I've known for years, and when I met the person, I was like, "Wait a minute, I'm gonna ask some questions." So yeah, and that was one of them. And so it's really good. It's really geared to like the Gen X Boomer Academy demo that like watches
the
that
steak
show.
eaters of the Academy.
Well, yeah, well, not only that, yeah, but it's like definitely the older audience too. It's like Hot Ones, but for older people, like for sure.
Kenny, oh my God, that is incredible. I can't believe you just called CBS Sunday Hot Ones, but for older people. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, I'm gonna be laughing at that for months. That is wow. Okay. Well, to go to take a little bit of a pivot here, because you've referenced this a couple of times, and I want to talk to you about it. You are a pollster for Cinema Score, at least part-time. And fun fact for those of you listening/watching, Kenny and I met at South by Southwest in person the year of Everything Everywhere, which is really fun. And when I met you, I was asking you about Cinema Score because I really wanted to learn about it. And you gave me one of your Cinema Score cards. I still have it as like a South by Southwest Kenny Miles souvenir. I thought that was like so endearing and cool that you gave me one of those. But tell me about that. Like, how did you get into it? And also just like, what is it? Is it all digital now? Or are you still sort of handing cards to people?
Yeah, I'll just I'll show you like Cinema Score cards real quick. This is what it looks like. They recently changed it. But they used to have like would you buy it or rent it on like VOD or DVD? But it's definitely grade, gender, and age. They recently added non-binary on there. Yeah, it was 2024 they did that, and it's just I had read about Cinema Score in Entertainment Weekly. It was in the grid. They had all these critic grids. And one of the critics was actually Lisa Kennedy of the Denver Post, who I met when I moved here, which I thought was really cool that I met her. But then a few years later, I was an intern for the Denver Film Society. And they're our local nonprofit that does the film festival. And this really cool thing called Film on the Rocks. They play a classic movie at Red Rocks, and they have a local band play beforehand. And it's a really well-known thing. Actually, the Lumineers actually played there before they broke out really big, which is kind of crazy. But I met the the owner's daughter of Cinema Score. Her name's Julie. During my marketing internship, and I was just over the moon. I love Cinema Score. I know what it is. I read about it, and we went out for drinks one night with a few people there, and we were talking about it. And then she basically created like a pollster position for me. It was those guys really knowledgeable. We can get more people, and Denver was a growing city at the time. I moved here in 06. It was really so the population kept growing. So they actually did need a second pollster because of the population growth here. So I just got really lucky. But I started in 2012, and a lot of people would kind of dismiss Cinema Score a little bit, but I worked at a landmark theater. This is all was when I was in grad school, and we would do those advanced screenings, and so we would do a screener report, and I would write down around the age range and gender and their comment, and I had to guess what grade they gave it to, and I noticed that the screener reports I did myself matched the demographics that were released for Cinema Score, because they used to give us, the pollsters, all the information about age, grade, and gender, broken down. People under 18 gave it an A+, or women over 50 gave the lowest grade to Magic Mike. I'll always remember that. And there was a gender and age breakdown, or there was a big gender breakdown for the Nice Guys. It was men who went for the director liked it, but if you were a woman and you went for one of the actors, you gave it a lower grade. And then I asked women who what actor they preferred, and the older women told me Russell Crowe, and the younger women told me Ryan Gosling. So you do see patterns demographically when you do poll. I did notoriously, we're not really notorious, but I'm very proud. I actually polled The Last Jedi, and my audience applauded 5 times, and it got an A. The audience legit liked it, and the fans were just too harsh on it, online. And Cinema Score kind of proved that the audience really did like it, even though the fans, the hardcore fans, really kind of destroyed it. And so it is really interesting to watch audiences, respond to the movie and oh, well, the critics said it wasn't that good, but then I'll decide. And then they don't give it a good grade when they come out. It's oh, the critics were right. Oh, you didn't really like it. But I do call out certain studios. I do notice I get a better return rate if I say Disney Wants to Know Your Thoughts, A24, Angel Studios, Crunchyroll, those studios that have those fans. And my brother got me an A24 t-shirt a few years ago, and I actually wear it when I poll an A24 movie. I pulled Eddington last year, that was a lot of fun. To watch people respond to that movie. I actually had requested, we don't get requests a lot to pull movies, but I was oh, I want to know what people think of that. And so I was kind of hanging out, oh, what'd you think? Let's talk about this, And so it's really good to see that. I think audiences are a little bit more discerning now that movies are making less money. It's you can get people who know what Cinema Score is. I used to, pre-COVID, if people had concessions in their hands, they wouldn't want to do the survey. But now people really go out of their way to hold a Cinema Score card, if their hands are full. It used to be an excuse, but now to them it's kind of part of the theater going experience. It's oh, I'm going out, so I'm going to participate in this survey. And the other thing I noticed, that if a fan dresses up as the character, or wears a t-shirt and they don't like the movie, or sorry, if they don't want to pull it and change their mind after they come out, that's a bad sign. That happened with the recent Indiana Jones movie and the Joker too, is that people went in excited and they left like they did not like it, but they don't say it. So if they don't do the card, I get a little less offended now because it means that they just didn't like the movie, which can happen. But it is, I really like doing it. It's really cool. I've been doing it since 2012, and it's really interesting to see that side of the movie going experience, other than like, being like a part-time film critic and going to advanced screenings and going to film festivals and getting the screeners for like award season. That's cool. But to see it on the other end is really interesting. And to really meet the person, I was obsessed with this company since I was in junior high reading Entertainment Weekly. And now it's just like a side gig, but like I get to do it, which is really cool. I really like it a lot. Yeah.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, Kenny. Is it part of Cinema Score measuring like what the audience thought, like what the audience thought the film was versus what they thought the marketing had told them it was going to be? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, we don't ask them like grade it based on like what you thought the marketing was, but there is an expectation, and if something is not marketed well, or honestly, people will respond to it. Or how the ending is, like with like a horror movie. I'm kind of curious how the new the Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die movie does, because I saw it at like the Regal mystery movie last night, and the audience was kind of into it, but the ending kind of, I'm not gonna say what happens, but the ending kind of threw people off, and so I'm wondering how that happens, because the ending can really make or break a movie. Like I think Get Out had like a different ending initially, and I do think Sinners earned its A. I mean, besides the fact that it was a great movie, but like that ending credit scene,
Yeah.
I think it went. I literally was saying in my mind, this is going to get an A minus, maybe a B plus, but then that ending scene is like, no, this is probably getting an A, maybe an A minus. But like, I just thought that the ending scene was just so well done.
Well, two classic examples of films that like didn't do well in terms of Cinema Score, both starring Jennifer Lawrence, unfortunately, is Mother and Die My Love. But like, to me, it's so obvious that that film is not going to do, because if you're going into Die My Love thinking, oh, it's like a Jennifer Lawrence, Robert Pattinson drama, like if you're going in as a fan of like Twilight or like The Hunger Games, like you are not going to like Die My Love. Die My Love is such a niche film for like people who like the Lynn Ramsey like experimental style. And similarly with Mother, like if you're going in just wanting like a horror film experience, that's not what you're gonna get. And if you don't know that, of course you're gonna.
And I would say the Mother really brought up a good point, because it shows the Mother's F grade kind of shows like the dual conflict that happened with that movie. Was people who went for Jennifer Lawrence gave it an F. And if you like Jennifer Lawrence, you don't want to watch her get beat up at the end. You know what I mean? Like it just makes sense. You're going to hate the movie. But I remember that Mother got, like, for reasons for attending, if you put director, it got a C. And if you go to see a Darren Aronofsky movie, and if you knew that going in who the director was and you gave it a C, that's a big canary in the coal mine. Again, that's almost like I talked about like Coalition with Amy Madigan. Like that's like a backlash Coalition. It's like, I don't like it that, Darren Aronofsky made this movie, but then like all the J-Laws fans, like I hated that she got beat up. So that's going to get its F. That's the thing with Die My Love. Like when I told my two sisters that love both those actors that they were in this movie, and I could get the screener, and I sent them the trailer, they're like, I don't think I want to watch that. Like when they read the premise, who was in it, like, oh yeah, I'm interested. But then when they saw that, they're like, oh, you know what I mean? So imagine if you try to go in open-minded, like it was just so out there enough and didn't really explain its story and was very arty that I could see. I think it only got like a D plus, which is, I mean, that's still pretty bad, but like it could have been much worse for that movie.
Yeah, Kenny, I've done this new thing for the past couple years where I won't watch trailers at all before seeing anything, and it's really led me down some wild paths because you just don't know what you're in for when you sit down. What other trends have you noticed doing this polling for as many years as you have? Have audience tastes like shifted in turn? Because there's all this talk now of like, why aren't people going to the movies? Like, do you have any magical insight being that you've a cinema score pollster?
I do think people's audience have changed. Like I remember when The Martian came out, like people were asking, "Oh, is that?" They thought some people thought it was an Interstellar sequel. So it's one of those things where we've been conditioning audiences to like think everything's a remake or like a sequel. I do notice more niche fandom. Like people are on Letterbox, like they will go to an A24 movie. Crunchyroll is the one I'm really fascinated with. Just because I'm older and I'm always worried that like, oh, younger people don't want to go see the movies. But I'm at the point now where like I kind of don't care what it is. If it's a good story, and maybe it's stylistically different and not demographically for me, but if it inspires people and gives them joy and then gives money to the movie theaters, I'm not going to complain. Like I didn't like K-pop Demon Hunter. I think I gave it like 2.5 stars out of 5 on Letterbox. But you know what? If it wins 2 Oscars, that's great because there were boomers who were mad that Everything Everywhere All at Once won like all those Oscars. So like I'm not going to be upset about it if a younger generation really appreciates that theatrical going um experience. I'm just kind of going through what recently got cinema score grades.
I mean, I think you made a really astute, like comparing Sony Pictures Classics like to A24 is actually
Yeah.
really astute and interesting because I think in the 90s, like Sony Pictures Classics did a lot to sort of bolster independent film. And I think, yeah, like sort of this cool appeal of A24 is helping out a lot. I think Criterion is doing a
Mhm.
lot to like, get a new generation interested in film and like collecting physical media. I mean, the lines, and yes, it's at a film festival, but the lines for like Criterion Closet were insane.
Oh
Like
yeah.
people waiting hours to get in, and like I was carrying around my like tote bag, like my Criterion Closet tote bag, and the amount of times that I got stopped, you would think I was like a celebrity, or people were just stopping me to ask me like what I got. So
Oh
I
yeah,
think like
yeah.
sort of the branding is really helping these sort of niche, or they're not niche anymore, but it's kind of interesting, like it's really taken off.
I I do think I try when I do pull a movie this week, I'll just say I'm definitely going to the Dolby screenings because people go to the bigger and better. Like if they're going to go out, they're going to spend a little bit extra money. Um, Again, if you see the bigger movie in the bigger house, that kind of squeezes out like the smaller and medium movies in the smaller houses that people don't really see, I would say. It is interesting. One of the things I did do late last year, I actually exit polled the Kill Bill Whole Bloody Affair and I got an A plus. And I thought it was so weird that I did that because it was the first like repertory screening that I did, even though it was definitely its own release in 2025. Technically, it's
Hmm.
2025 release. But I'm wondering if that's gonna be the future, especially as you get those fans. It was funny because it was the opposite of when I do a Crunchyroll movie. I'm like the oldest person there as I pass out the surveys, but for Kill Bill, I might have been the youngest person like when I pulled that movie. If not, people like no one under 40 did it. I'm 44, so maybe there are people early 40s, but everyone was like when they tore off the tab, they definitely did like 35 to 49 for that one and 50 and over for sure.
Yeah, I actually really want to see cinemas lean into more of these like special programming things. I think that is a really smart. If movie theaters unfortunately are becoming expensive to the point where like some people are getting priced out and it is becoming like a special event thing for a lot of people. Like for us movie dorks, like we'll always sort of budget to be able to go to the movies a lot, but for a lot of people going to the movies is like a 3 or 4 times a year type of a special occasion thing. So it makes sense, like, if Titanic is being re-released, if Jaws is being re-released, like, people are going to go.
Yeah, and the other trend I would say that I do want to push back on from like a film Twitter backlash is people will say that movies don't have enough windows. And I know what they mean, but as someone who polls like regularly, the movies don't last as long in the theaters anymore because there's other movies opening. So when they say like they need to be discovered, they need to be room to breathe, they don't have time. You know what I mean? It's like it's very rare for a movie to be at the theater I pull at for more than 2 weeks because there's 10 screens there. There's on average of 3 releases. If the big movie gets 2 screens, it's just like a math. It's just like it's just mathematical based on like when the schedule is, if that makes sense. So that is a trend I have noticed. I did notice it pre-COVID, but especially now. Like there's all this stuff that's like pushing people out. Like um another thing I have noticed, and I've been hesitant to really say this, but I guess I'll say it. In the past year and a half, the studios have been really wishy-washy across the board of like, oh, this movie's going to get a wide release. Oh, no, it's not. Like I've gotten last minute phone calls. I've had cancellations like 2 days before, like, oh, they don't want to pull the movie because they're not going to open on many screens. And I'll have to like, I read that the Melania Trump documentary was supposed to be on 2,000 screens, but then they lowered it to 1,400. And I called CinemaScore and they found out from me. And then they called the studio. So I shouldn't say that. I'm sorry. But like, I've literally had to like read about movies that are shrinking their releases and I would have to inform them. And the studios would be very last minute about it.
Well, I think the same thing happened with the Charlie XCX film that she's doing. Like originally it was supposed to have a much wider release. Am I crazy?
I was scheduled to pull it, and and that's why I'm bringing this up. I was literally scheduled to pull it this Friday, and they scheduled me this past Friday, and I told them about about the doc. So they had 2 movies that were supposed to be pulled that like weren't for that reason. So yeah, no, it's been happening more and more. There was one movie last summer. I'm not going to say now or I'll tell you off this, but I literally warned them. Oh no, this one movie is getting a wide release. You know, the studio had kind of spent money on it. It was a horror movie. And they got a phone call the day of from the studio, like, oh yeah, you're going to pull it, right? And they had no idea, but they were like, Kenny, you were right. And I'm like, I don't remember that happening. I've been doing this since 2012. That's not happening. So I feel like the studios are they're kind of winging it right now, in my opinion.
Do you think they're just nervous? Do you think they're like they don't want their film to be labeled as a bomb? So if they just release it in less theaters, like that might help. Like, what do you think
Yeah, or maybe like the ad buy, because if a movie's on 1,500 screens or more, it has to be pulled by CinemaScore. It's like a contractual thing. I can count the number of times on one hand there's been exceptions to that. Like I think Nuremberg was not pulled, even though it opened on like 2,000 screens. I'm not sure why. But it was interesting to see that happen. Like I think like I was supposed to pull Is This Thing On? And they got pulled. So I had 2 movies pulled this month, which is crazy. But they decided, oh, we're only doing, well, it was weird because I read that it was supposed to be 1,200 screens on the numbers.com. And so I called them and I was like, hey, we know what's going on. And then it was just like, oh no, you're pulled it. And then they call like, Ken, you're right. They're only doing 1,475, which is 25 less than the wide. And so it's just, I don't know. The studio's kind of got to figure that out. I don't know. That's my one issue with it. Cause if you don't want to pull a movie, if you don't want a movie like pulled, that's fine. But just, I don't know. Let us know. Sorry.
That's so funny. Kenny's industry insights, y'all, are so, because he was, before we started recording, was telling me that he like saw Lisa Tayback, and I was like, nobody but you would be excited to see Lisa Tayback somewhere. That is incredible. For those of you who don't know, Lisa Tayback, an iconic industry PR guru, but yeah, incredible that you like know what these people look. I don't know if you have like an encyclopedia in your head of like who these niche film industry people are. I just would like to say, Kenny, that I have never been pulled by CinemaScore, and you know, if somebody came up to me, I would freak out and like drop my pop. I would not use the concessions as an excuse. I'd be like, take the popcorn, give me the CinemaScore card. So
Yeah.
I don't know what's happening. Like, I have only been called to jury duty one time, and I was out of the country. I couldn't do it. You know, if I got called for jury duty, I would be there, like, seated, ready. I would be like Elle Woods on the first day of law school, like brand new pen, brand new notebook, like ready. Like, I've always wanted to do jury duty, and I'm really upset. And I've been a registered voter like the day I turned 18, like ready to go. I don't know what's happening. No one wants me on their jury, but I would love to do cinema score. I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah, it is fun to see the different opinions and like to notice patterns. It's really made me really like analytics from like a marketing standpoint, I would say, and just really kind of learning more about that is pretty cool.
Well, the thing that I always say is like a lot of these films that they say are bombs, it's because of the marketing. I don't think it's because of the films themselves. I think they just don't do a good enough job of like telling people about them or like targeting the right people.
I do want to push back a little bit. I don't think there's awareness. Like, I do think people try. There's just been examples of like, I remember that I think it was called Sasquatch Sunset came out, and I mean they had a Sasquatch guy in a costume in the costumes, like they were roaming Central Park. People took photos and videos of it. The New York Times did a profile about it. Like that is trying. You know what I mean? But it didn't do well. So I do think that there is a difference between like a dump and then people not being aware of it. Like there's some movies where it was a few years ago. I remember I was like, well, where did this come from? And like, why did I not know about it? And there was a guy who does like a movie marketing blog. And I didn't think the movie was marketed. It was like some Netflix movie that did really well, but they target marketed. He explained what it was. And so when I read that, that really kind of changed my attitude on that thinking. I know what you mean. Like it is hard. It's like, it feels like they're not trying. It is hard to break through. Like Searchlight could have done better with Testament of Anne Lee. Like, I don't even think they really tried like they did the last few weeks, made an attempt, but like in that regard, I know what you mean, but it's just like The Long Walk had like the people walking on the on like the treadmills. Like that was really cool. You know what I mean? Like that was good marketing, but it was really more niche. One of the things I did notice that a lot of the studios now will do paid social ads with influencers. And it's been everywhere. I'm like, what is this? Like, but one of the things I wish Searchlight would have done for Testament of Anne Lee, I don't know if this would have worked, but they could have tried it. There are these micro influencers on Instagram who are kind of evangelical, like liberal Christians. And I think that they could have done Testament of Anne Lee with them. Like,
that's interesting.
You know, like because there's so much of these influencers I see the paid ads for that only have a few thousand followers. And I'm like, why is this person here? But like these people like that were featured in, there was a Shiny Happy People doc. The new season was about like Christian evangelicalism through like Teen Mania or whatever. Like there are people on there who are Christian evangelical influencers with a lot of followers. Like I would have started there. And some other people who are really politically active, I think would have been a really interesting route to go with that. But I don't know if Searchlight does the whole influencer marketing, because I know A24 does.
This is what I mean. It's like, I would love if somebody listening has like information on how these decisions are made. Because sometimes it is like awareness, but sometimes it's just like you're not marketing the film as like what it is. Like sometimes they'll like, market something as a drama or like market something as a rom-com. And I'm like, that's not what it is. And then the influencer thing is interesting because sometimes you'll have like, I don't know, Bachelor. I'm too deep into the Bachelor world, but you'll have them at the premieres. And I'm like, if somebody was going to see this rom-com, they would have seen it whether or not this random Bachelor Nation person was there. It doesn't make any sense. And then sometimes you'll have a movie that'll do like multiple fan screenings like in Houston. And I'm like, these people would have paid to see the movie. Like, you're losing money in the fourth largest city in America. That doesn't quite make sense to me. I want to know how these decisions are made. I want to know who makes them. I would like to be hired to make those decisions, please, because I feel like I would be able to help people out. I think it's really interesting.
That is interesting about the advanced screenings. I know that I think I heard that the How to Train Your Dragon screening had like 5 advanced screenings for fans or something. And it's like that's not the kind of movie that needs it. It still did well, but like it's like that's interesting, like what goes into what and why. But I do love creative marketing. I hope it didn't peak with Smile when the people like Smile, when the actors were smiling behind the camera, like
Yeah,
that
yeah.
really broke through. Like the number one story on Sports Illustrated the day after that happened was the people smiling. Like you like that is free media. You know what I mean? To like cross over. I think
I
that
think the marketing around the first Megan was really cool too. I think the second one, like, really, I mean, it just completely fell apart. But the first one, like, everything they did was so clever.
Yeah.
And
But
then even like the Sydney Sweeney Nun movie, which like didn't do well, like at South by Southwest, like all the stuff that they did there with like just having random nuns like around the festival was really cool. I would love to see more stuff like that.
Yeah, it is really cool. No, I do agree. That's why I do like going to South by is that you can see those activations and like movies that are like kind of either movies or TV that's really has that really good like promotional bent, which is really cool. Like I really like that.
Also, Kenny, as we wrap up, since you're a documentary nerd, can I recommend you 2 documentaries that I don't think are well produced, but I feel like you should watch them because you would enjoy them. They're not well made necessarily. One is called God Forbid, and it's about like the Jerry Falwell Jr. sex scandal. It's on
Oh, that's
Hulu.
recent. That's from a few years ago.
Yeah. I just saw that this weekend. Like, speaking of things that I did while I was
it's on Hulu. Okay.
I
What's the other
watched
one?
that. Huh?
What's the other one?
Oh, the other one is it's called The Cult Behind the Killer, the Andrea Yates story, and it's about Andrea Yates, who was a mother who lived in my hometown and drowned her 5 young children in a bathtub because the devil told her to do it, basically. And it's
this is like this is from this year. It's
like brand new. But I have so many stories about that because, like I said, it's my hometown. So I would love to know, like, if you watch it, let me know what you think.
Okay.
I feel like you would really like both of those. Kenny, do you have any recommendations for the people as we close out our discussion today? Recommendations, thoughts, comments, your closing statement on Chasing the Gold, your introductory episode of Chasing the Gold.
Oh, not much. Just to enjoy Oscar season. Just enjoy the movies. This is a good escape from the crazy world. Like it's made me realize that just with everything going on right now, like it's good to like look forward to things, I think, and not as a way to like numb what's happening, but just to have like a good like self-care. Like it's a version of going on a walk. And definitely like discover classic movies. Like Denver this past weekend played Downhill Racer, which is a movie with Robert Redford and Gene Hackman, and it was a really good movie. I really liked it. It was really cool to see on the big screen. It happens to be playing at Sundance next week and on 35, which I'm jealous. And it's funny because Robert Redford is in Boulder in the movie, which I think I'm wondering if that's partially why they played it out in its Park City and like Olympic stuff. But just try to see those older movies. It's really cool, and this is a perfect time to do it. Perfect time of year, I think. Is I watch a lot of TCM classics for the first time. Letterbox is a great way to really discover those movies, and I usually spend a lot of Q1 when it's colder out inside watching classic movies, and Downhill Racer was one. Well, Downhill Racer I saw in the theater, but it was really cool. Like I really recommend doing that.
Yeah. Also, these like free streaming services like Tubi, they have like a really good selection of classic stuff on there, and I highly recommend just going near like fine arts museum. Like I know the Houston Fine Arts Museum, they have classic movies that they'll play, or like older niche movies that your Cinemark or AMC is not gonna play. They have a Iranian film festival coming up, which I think is really cool. And of course, Kenny, I'm obsessed with the iconic River Oaks Theater in Houston that has a really cool lineup of classics that they do. So yeah, find whatever your local theater is. Look, check at your museum. And yeah, there's a lot of free stuff that's available as well.
Yeah, absolutely. reason why that was brought up was I used to do social media for Landmark Theaters for COVID, and that was one of the first things I said. Like, I used to do the social media for River Oaks, and Parasite made a lot of money there.
Oh my gosh.
I don't want to say a percentage. It was a small percentage of the US gross, but it was like, wow.
That's so interesting. Yeah, like I love that. If I were to ever get married, I would probably get married there. I'm not even kidding. I would like rent out a theater and just invite everyone to watch a movie. I love that place. And I agree. I actually saw this thing on social media that was saying like the secret to happiness as an adult is to always have something to look forward to. And I don't get like the post-Christmas blues. I get post-Oscar season blues. Like when the Oscars are over, I feel like I don't have anything, because now there's like all these events, like DGA is next week. Like there's always something happening, and then the Oscars are over and you're like, wait, what do I do now?
Yeah,
this is a really exciting time.
Yeah, to me it's film festivals. So I do buy a little bit more than I should for online Sundance, and then going in person next year will be a lot of fun. But like I do like, if Telluride coming back is always kind of sad, but we have mini festivals year round in Denver that when those end, that's kind of my little like, really. But I mean, I'm glad I enjoyed it. It gives me life and it's a lot of fun. And
it really is.
Gosh,
well, Kenny, we got to figure out how to get you to Toronto. And we got to figure out a plan for next year's Sundance. I don't know if we'll just come crash on your couch. Maybe we'll like get an Airbnb in the middle. I don't know. We got to come up with something.
Oh yeah, we got to. Yeah, for sure.
We got to make Sundance happen. Thank you so much for being here. Kenny, where can people follow you? Where can people find your work? Engage with all that you do?
Oh yeah, I am the Kenny Miles at Twitter, X, Blue Sky, Letterbox. I write for We Live Entertainment. And it's been, that's pretty much it. I do express my opinion on the X Twitter for movies and some politics as well on there. Kenny, it's always a good time. I love it.
Yeah. Kenny is a fantastic follow. Highly recommend that. I am at Shadan Larky everywhere. I did just do a piece on In Session Film where you can find all of the Oscar nominated films, including the short films. I put a lot of time into it. So if you're looking for a handy guide as you're making your way through the nominees, highly recommend that piece as a place to start. But follow me, follow In Session Film. We are a passion-driven website, so any support, any follows, likes, retweets, reviews, podcast reviews, any comments, I reply to every single comment that we get. So if you have any marketing insight that you would like to share with us, let me know. If you have any thoughts on the BAFTA nominations, if you have any thoughts on supporting actress and where that could go, the Timmy versus Leo versus Michael B. Jordan of it all, any and all comments, I would really love to read them. I was also on the most recent episode of the In Session Film podcast. We did a Best Actress draft, Kenny, looking at the Best Actress nominees from 2020 to 2025. So I love the crop of actresses that I picked, and if you would like to listen and know which 10 performances ended up in my camp, that's a fun listen as well. So any and all support you could send our way, we would really appreciate. And thank you so much for listening to Chasing the Gold. We will be back. This is the peak Oscar season, so I have a lot of content planned for phase 2. By the time you guys listen to this podcast, my Oscar predictions will be updated with the winners on the website. So go to the awards tab on In Session Film so you can see who I currently think is going to take home the gold in March. Kenny, say goodbye to the lovely viewers who've been with us for nearly 2 hours. Thank you guys for hanging in there. Bye.
Awesome. Bye. Thanks for joining us.